Greetings and welcome to the Dr. J Vlog series. It is Monday, August 11th, 2025, and on Monday we talk about mathematics and statistics. And we're talking about positivity this week, and so I'd like to turn our focus briefly to maths and stats to talk about positivity versus negativity. And specifically, are your thoughts in general more positive or more negative? And what about people in general? If you had to guess, what would you hypothesize? Do you think people on average have proportionately more positive thoughts or negative thoughts? Well, as usual with these kinds of issues, it's difficult to say precisely or to come up with truly accurate population estimates, but the research from a range of different studies has shown that negative thoughts are far more prevalent than positive thoughts. It's almost like turning on the news, right? What do you expect? Well, if it leads, then it bleeds. And most news falls into the negative category. And so do our thoughts, at least at the individual level. From everything I've seen, the figures vary, but at the low end, guess what? At least 2/3 of our thoughts are negative on average, and some studies estimate as high as 80% of our thinking is at the sort of negative level. So why? Why are we so preoccupied with negativity, especially if we're just having thoughts in our own minds? And in principle, wouldn't we want to just have more positive thoughts? We could control that. Or is it really a choice or more of a conditioned response? Well, I'll be addressing that in greater depth and detail later in the week, but you could suggest, for example, from an evolutionary standpoint, we are programmed in large measure to sense or anticipate danger, as that should enhance our survival. Right? If we encounter an unknown situation or person or an animal, we might be safer by thinking about the negative possibilities amongst all of the possible outcomes. But then how does that square with the quest for positivity in our own lives? In fact, what if negative thinking has more harmful effects on our own health and well-being, as the research tends to suggest? Well, then it's a bit of a catch-22, right? I'm thinking about positive or I'm thinking about the possibility, if you will, of negative outcomes to protect myself on the one hand, but too much negative thinking also has an adverse effect in terms of things like our cognitive functioning and even partly suppresses our immune systems. And so thus we're effectively, in some respects, hurting ourselves if we continuously have negative thoughts. So maybe there's a better balance to be struck in some senses. I think it's only reasonable, for example, to think possible negative thoughts or anticipatory outcomes if we're preparing for certain kinds of circumstances or encounters. But at the same time, these should be put in their place, if you will, and kept at a minimum. On an everyday basis, most of us don't have to continually prepare for the worst, and we're not constantly in danger. So we can go long stretches, in fact, without encountering people or having to, confront difficult situations. So what if we could at least try to fill most of our time, most of that other time, if you will, with positive thoughts? Or are you stuck automatically reverting back to the negative? So let's say you have about 60,000 thoughts each day on average, and that's what we, at least according to one study I've seen, that's about how many thoughts we tend to have. So if 2/3 or 70% of your thoughts are negative, then that means you're being bombarded with negativity at a ratio of at least 2-to-1. So in short, if you could be more proactive in terms of regulating your thoughts and shift the balance, if you will, in the other direction, so that 2/3 of your thoughts at least were positive rather than negative, imagine the psychological and emotional and health benefits that could have. So we're going to continue to explore positivity this week, looking at the causes and consequences, again, of having more positivity in your life. All right. So for now, as ever, may you and yours continue to create peace in your lives, nurture love in your hearts, dole out hugs in abundance, and I'm going to add to that, create a framework of positivity to help you lead a healthier and happier life. We'll see you tomorrow.